Somewhere in the world right now, there are only two of these plants left alive. Not two species, two individual plants. Others have sold for the price of a mansion. One can't be bought at any price, and one only exists for a few hours a year. These are the rarest, most extraordinary flowers on the planet, and some of them might change the way you look at the plants in your own home. Kadupul flower. Imagine a botanical treasure that no amount of money can ever buy. The Kadupul is considered the most priceless flower in the world, and for one fascinating reason: it's physically impossible to harvest it alive. Native to the forests of Sri Lanka, this rare species only opens its white petals at the stroke of midnight and withers away before the first ray of sunlight ever touches it. It's the ultimate display of exclusivity. Either you're there at the exact moment it blooms, or the flower simply ceases to exist. And believe it or not, that same night owl behavior might explain why your own plants look perfectly healthy and green, yet refuse to produce a single bud. Just like the Kadupul, many plants have an internal clock that only triggers blooming in complete darkness. They need an uninterrupted period of sleep to recognize that it's time to flower. So if you tend to leave your porch or living room lights on late into the night, you might actually be tricking your plant's biology into thinking the day never really ends. Sometimes, the secret to a blooming garden isn't more fertilizer, it's simply respecting the silence of the night and turning off the lights. Juliet Rose. This is not your average florist rose. The Juliet rose took 15 years of meticulous breeding by master horticulturist David Austin to reach perfection. And when it was finally unveiled, the total investment in its development had exceeded $3 million. It's celebrated for its warm peach color and petals so densely layered they form a perfect cup-shaped bloom. Today, it stands as the ultimate symbol of luxury weddings and botanical prestige and remains one of the most sought-after flowers in the world, decades after it was first introduced. Shenzhen Nongke Orchid. This orchid didn't come from a remote forest or a hidden corner of the wild. It was born entirely in a Chinese laboratory. Scientists spent 8 painstaking years perfecting it, and in 2005 it was sold at auction for roughly $200,000, making it the most expensive orchid ever sold. The price tag comes down to one extraordinary biological event. It only blooms once every 4 to 5 years, and its fragrance is something experts describe as truly one of a kind. That long wait, as remarkable as it seems, is actually a lesson in environmental stability. If your orchids at home are stubbornly refusing to bloom, the problem is almost always an unstable environment. Just like the Shenzhen Nongke, most orchids are highly sensitive to temperature swings and drafts. Keeping your plant in a stable, humid spot and resisting the urge to move it around is often the key to triggering that rare bloom. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a high-end plant is simply leave it exactly where it is. Gold of Kinabalu orchid. Found only on the slopes of a single mountain in Malaysia, this orchid is on the brink of extinction. It's recognizable by its striking horizontal petals marked with dark stripes, but what makes it truly extraordinary is its patience. The plant can take up to 15 years to produce its very first flower. On the black market, a single stem can fetch over $5,000, which unfortunately makes it a constant target for smugglers and illegal collectors who are slowly pushing it toward disappearance. That 15-year wait is all about nutrient storage, and it actually holds a valuable lesson for home gardeners. When you have slow-growing plants, the temptation is to over-fertilize, to force things along, but that usually just ends up burning the roots. The real secret of the gold of Kinabalu is slow and steady. Applying a very diluted fertilizer on a consistent schedule is far more effective than a heavy dose every now and then. It's about building a foundation of strength over time, rather than pushing a growth spurt the plant simply isn't ready for. Saffron crocus. Most people know saffron as a spice, but very few have ever seen the flower it actually comes from. The saffron crocus isn't expensive because the plant itself is rare. It's expensive because the harvest is an absolute logistical nightmare. Each flower produces just 3 tiny red threads. To produce just 1 pound of pure saffron, you have to hand-pick roughly 80,000 flowers. That's what makes saffron, by weight, more valuable than gold, and every pinch you add to a dish represents an almost unimaginable amount of human labor and dedication. Middle Mist Red. If you think your houseplants are high maintenance, consider the middlemist red. There are only two known specimens left in the entire world, one carefully kept in a greenhouse in London and another in New Zealand. It was originally brought over from China 200 years ago, but didn't survive back home for long, going extinct in its homeland not long after its arrival. What we have today is a true historical survivor, one that depends on round-the-clock human care to keep the species from disappearing forever. The reason it's so rare today comes down to its extreme sensitivity to air quality and ventilation, and that's something worth keeping in mind for your own indoor plants too. If your plants are developing brown edges or dropping leaves for no apparent reason, they may actually be suffocating in stagnant air. Just like the middle mist, most indoor plants need gentle air circulation to prevent fungal growth and help them breathe properly. Something as simple as opening a window or placing a small fan nearby can be the difference between a plant that's merely surviving and one that's genuinely thriving. Semper Augustus tulip. In the 17th century, this tulip set off the world's first major economic bubble. A virus had caused striking red and white stripes to appear across its petals, and that unusual beauty quickly became an obsession among the Dutch nobility. At the height of what history now calls tulip mania, a single bulb sold for as much as a luxury mansion in Amsterdam. It's a remarkable reminder of just how far human beings can go in chasing something fleeting and beautiful. But here's the twist. That stunning pattern was actually a sign of a deeply weakened plant. In a modern garden, those same kinds of irregular stripes and markings can be an early warning sign of a viral infection, one capable of spreading and wiping out an entire collection. So if you ever notice strange, uneven patterns appearing on your leaves or petals, don't admire them. Isolate that plant immediately. The real lesson of the Semper Augustus is that sometimes what looks like a rare and unique feature is actually a cry for help. And keeping your garden clean is the only way to protect its long-term health. Ghost Orchid. Made famous by books and films, the ghost orchid lives in the swamps of Florida and Cuba. It has no leaves, performs no conventional photosynthesis, and instead survives through a complex, almost mysterious partnership with a specific fungus. When it finally blooms, its white flower appears to float in midair, like a tiny, delicate ghost suspended in the shadows. It's protected by law and considered virtually impossible to cultivate outside of its natural habitat, and that last point is worth sitting with for a moment. The ghost orchid doesn't just need the right soil or the right amount of water. It needs an entire ecosystem. A specific fungus, a specific level of humidity, a specific kind of swamp that took thousands of years to form. It's a reminder that some living things are so finely tuned to their environment that removing them from it, even with the best intentions, is enough to destroy them entirely. There are things in nature that aren't meant to be owned. The ghost orchid is one of them.